everyone. I was really sad to hear that we would not be having our meeting this month. I was looking forward to coming to Seattle to reconnect with many of you. However, it's probably for the best. So in place of my live demo, I have done a video demo for you. It is a painting of dogwood blossoms. I hope you enjoy it, and if you have any questions, please email me at leslieredheadart@gmail.com. I hope you do enjoy this video, and please stay safe, healthy, and keep creating. For this demo, I have a plethora of supplies that I'll be using. First of all, my colors. I'm using 4 colors in this. Usually I use 3 or 4 colors in my pours. The colors I will be using are Windsor Yellow, Quinacridone Rose, Cobalt Blue, and Windsor Blue Green Shade. And to go with these colors, I have 4 different pots that I mix all my colors into. I'm using a hockey brush to wet my paper. I have another brush that I refer to as my yucky brush. This I use to mix my paint. It's an old synthetic brush. The tip is worn off, and I don't care that I use it to mix up color like I do. I have a medicine dropper, a ruling pen to apply masking fluid, and my masking fluid, a container to put it into. You can also use an inexpensive brush to apply the masking fluid, but I prefer my ruling pen. And then I have masking fluid pickup, a soft spray mister, and my water container, my images, paper towels, under the bed box. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh yes, I have my paper stretched and stapled to a board and ready to go. I have my image drawn out, and I'm going to go ahead and mask out my white areas like I have in my photograph here. I've put my masking fluid into a film canister. I like to use a film canister because the lid pops off easier, and because I only put a little bit in here so that if it spills, I'm not spilling my whole container of masking fluid. One thing that I really like to use is called a ruling pen. It's an old drafting tool, and I am drawing the masking fluid onto my paper. Another option is to use an inexpensive brush. I use one that doesn't have a very large tip to it, and soapy water, and dip it into my masking fluid, and then I can mask out what I want left to be white. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Mask out all my white areas. As I said at the beginning, I am using 4 colors for this pour. They are Windsor Yellow, Quinacridone Rose, Cobalt Blue, and Windsor Blue Green Shade. And I have my pots ready here, and I'm going to mix up my colors for my first pour. And I also have a scrap piece of paper so I can test the value of the paint that I will be mixing up. So I'm first going to take my yellow, and taking a pea-sized drop of my yellow, I will put it into my little pot here and add some water to it and mix up that yellow into a liquid form. I want to make sure that I mix it up really well so there isn't any chunks at the bottom, and I have enough water and liquid in this to get a pale value and also to cover my paper. Since this is my first pour, I will have a lot more paper to cover. So I want to make sure that I have enough paint in there so that I don't have to mix it up halfway through my pour. I want a light value, so I have my scrap piece of paper here so I can test my value. Remember, it does dry lighter, and that's about the right value. Now I will move on to my Quinacridone Rose, and I will mix up my Cobalt, and I will do the same with my Windsor Blue Green Shade. The first thing I am going to do is, using my hockey brush and clean water, I'm going to wet all the paper, making sure it is good and soaked. Okay, now I'm going to pour all the excess water off of my paper. I'm going to start with yellow, putting it across the top here, and then I am going to take my rose. I want warm colors where I want my focal point, which is the blossoms. So using just two colors, my yellow and my rose, I am going to pour them across my paper and down into some more of my blossoms, and then off the edge. I'm pouring it down. I'm trying to make sure that I get some of that paint in to some areas by using my finger. I'm going to pour this off. Let's pour it down a little bit. Now I'm going to take my paper towels and I'm going to wipe the edges of my paper so that that doesn't come back in on my next pour of paint. So I do want to keep pouring this because it is pooling quite a bit. So I'm going to pour it that way off the edge of my paper and back again. Wiping down the edges. You can see some of the paint likes to sit on top of the masking fluid. I'm going to take my yellow again, and I want to put my yellow up there. Let's move it around, and it's going to push out that orange because I'm going to make a green. So I'm now going to take my cobalt, which is a softer blue, and I'm going to pour the cobalt up there next to the yellow, and tilting my board, I'm going to let it mix together and make a nice soft green. The common color between the orange and the green is the yellow, and that is why I poured it first. Now wiping down the edges. Let's pour some of this down into the blossoms. And I'm going to work on that corner up there using my cobalt this time. Let's put the cobalt in. And now I'm going to pour some Winsor blue, a little bit darker blue, up in that corner. And tilting my board, I will mix those two colors around. And taking my yellow, I'll drop in some yellow right there, and I will mix it around as I'm pouring it off my board into my box. Let's bring it back this way. I'm going to tilt up my board and let it start to flow into my painting. I'm not wiping down the edges just yet. I'm letting that paint that went off onto the tape come back into my paper. And I'm going to lay it down and wipe it off because I want to pour some more colors. I do pour. If it does start to pool, I will move it around and try to pour it off before I pour my next two colors. I try not to pour all three colors at once because if I do, they will become a little bit too gray and muddy, and I like really colorful paintings. I want my warm colors through here, so I'm taking my yellow, and I'm taking my rose, I'm going to drop my rose in, and I'm going to mix those two colors around, tilting my board back and forth so they mix. I don't want the colors to mix into the same type of orange I want some parts more yellow and some parts more of the rose. So I can see that that's moving right there, which is nice. And then I'm tilting it back in and over on that edge. And I don't want that green up there, so I'm going to spray it off with my spray bottle. It's a good thing I have my spray bottle handy. And then I'm going to tilt it back up this way and then off my board down below. And let some of that color come down into my blossoms. I want to make sure I keep wiping off my edges, because if I don't, it will come back into my paint and will start to make my paint look gray or muddy. Off the edge there. And some of that is pooling, so I'm going to just slurp it up with my paper towel. I want some more rose up here. I lost it. It became too yellow. So I want more rose. Adding that in there. And letting it mix in that area. I'm pouring it off. I'm not pouring it into the green because it will become a darker green. I want that bright green, especially at this layer. I want to keep my colors clean. Let's tilt it back in and around. Now I find that it's important, let's use the spray bottle. It is dry down here. It's a warm day and it did get a little dry. I can feel a sense that it's drying because my paint down below isn't moving as quickly. I'm going to move that paint right up into those blossoms at the top. I don't want it to go too far up into the green, just a little bit. And then I'm going to pour it off the side. Okay, now down there I need to do some color. So I'm going to take my yellow. Let's pour the yellow. And some blue. I want to match what's at the top, so I'm going to take my cobalt and pour my cobalt in. And the yellow is the common color between the orange and the green. So I put that in between, so hopefully it will push out the orange. Adding some more cobalt over there. Let's add some Windsor blue. Darker blue in the corner there. Moving it around and back in. I'm going to turn it around because, whoops, I'm going to turn it around so that the light shows better. If I tilt my board up, then it blocks the light. So I'm moving my painting around so that the light will hit it better. And I'm pouring off my color, and I want a little bit of blue in there. So using my medicine dropper, I will put a few drops of blue in that area. It's in the background, so I don't mind that it's mixing some more with the orange because that will be the background. I want my bright color mostly throughout my flowers. I'm going to take some more cobalt and dropping some cobalt in there along the edge. And then I'm going to pour it off. Okay, wipe down the edges so I can do another sploosh of paint. And when I wipe down the edges, I push the tape to make sure that the paint comes out from underneath the tape so I don't get any so I don't get the different kind of blossoms. I want a little bit of purple up there, so I'm going to add some rose first because it's the common color between the orange and the purple. So the rose first, that will hopefully push out that orange, and then the blue. And it'll make a nice cleaner purple than if I added the blue into the orange. So I'm going to roll it off that edge and wipe it down. Oh, I like that. I really like that. So because I like that so well, I'm going to take some more cobalt. Let's put some cobalt in there and tilt it around and let it mix with the rose and make a nice soft purple. And then over here, I want to add some color over here. What am I adding? It's taking my medicine dropper. And let's do some rose first to push out the yellow, to make it less orange. And now I'm going to add some of that cobalt. I wanted a little bit more purple over here. Let's grab my paper towels and wipe down the edges, just like so. Let's tilt that purple back in a little bit. It's a nice, beautiful, soft purple. Okay, I find that I do want some more purple up there in those blossoms that are a little bit in the background. So let's put some cobalt in here. And now I want some more rose right there to mix with that better. And I will pour it off the top of my board. And it is moving slower, so I'm going to use my spray bottle and mist it above. I know that that area will probably be cropped, so I don't mind that there's blossoms there, but I still want to pour it off. Let's pour it this way. And I want more punch in there, so I'm going to add some more rose with my medicine dropper and then pour that around. Let's do cobalt. Wiping it down again. I want to put some more purple in there, so let's put in some rose first to push out that orange. And I'll move it around to help push that out. And then up there I can see it's moving slower. That's okay. It's in the background or it'll be cropped off. So I'm not too concerned if I get a bit of a bloom up there. But I do want to wipe down the edges. And now I am going to leave it flat to dry overnight. and then I will mask my second mask in the morning. All right, this is what it looks like now that it is dried. Isn't it beautiful? It's already off to a great start. So using my black and white, I will now mask out the next value. So I have to figure out what that is. That is this value right here. And sometimes I have to check with that value when I'm masking out the others if that is correct. My second layer of mask is dried, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up my paint. I'll set this aside while I do that. And now I have my 4 paint pots, my water, a white piece of scrap piece of watercolor paper, and my colors. Oh, and a medicine dropper. I'm going to put a bit of water into each one of my pots. Then starting with my yellow, I'm going to mix up some yellow that is more saturated in color than the first pour. I want to make sure that I have enough paint in there to pour it. This is why I like using the 2 watercolors, because I can control the saturation. That's about right. I'm going to rinse out my brush, and then I will move on to my different colors, making sure that they are more saturated than the first pour. Taking my clean water, I'm going to pour it across the paper and wet the whole piece of paper again. See that there's a lot of water going on. I want to make sure that paper is good and soaked. All right, I'm going to pour off this excess water. I'm now going to pour in the same areas with the same colors as I did the first time. Taking my yellow, and my cobalt blue, I'm going to move it around up there. Wipe it off. Now I'm going to take my yellow again, put some here, and some cobalt. Touch of Windsor at each corner. Bring it back in. I'm watching this as well as this to see what it does. And I'm going to wipe off the edges. And I'm moving it slowly down this way. I want it to soak into the paper some. I don't want to pour it all off very quickly. I want it to slowly pour off so that that color does soak into the paper. Now I'm going to take my yellow again, putting a splash there and a splash there. Let's take my rose and put a splash in those places there. And then I will move it around. Use my finger to help it. I don't want too much over there, so that's why I'm using my finger. Moving it that way. There's little bits that I'm trying to get that color in that are trapped by masking fluid. So I use my finger to move some of it around. And then wipe it off. I'm going to do a sploosh of cobalt right up here. And I want a sploosh of rose right in there. Let's mix those two together. Turn this around. Maybe the light hits it better that way, because if I tilt the board up towards me, it blocks the light. I am going to put some more blue right here. Right there. Let's do some more cobalt as well. Now I have to turn it back around. Run it off. This got a little too wet. Let's run it off over there. I'm trying to run it through the dark area because I know that I'll go really dark in here, and so a bit of a muddy color or gray color doesn't matter as much. I'm going to take my light mister and hopefully get that moving. And off the side there. Let's add some more cobalt in here. There's a bit of green and red mixing in, and I want to push that out. So let's push it out that way because there's also too much yellow there on the edge. And then I can use my medicine dropper, take a little bit of that rose, put it right in there, and pour it off. I like this yellow. And wiping it down. So when I tilt it up and pour this way, it doesn't pour into my flowers. It'll be much slower by then. Laying it down. I like this, what's going on here, but I do want more yellow, I think, through here. Before I do that, I'm going to spray it with a light mister right down here. Make sure that is off up there. as much as it can be. Put some yellow in here. And I'm going to do some blue. Some other blue down here. I can tell it's quite dry down here, so I'm misting it again. We want it to move. I'll turn the board around so you can see that it's going to move. So the light hits it better. And then off. I did not want that blue coming into here, so that's why I quickly turned it that way. You can watch and see how things are moving. It's like a dance in a way. Pouring some of that phthalo over here. Wiping that down. I want a splash of blue in there. Taking my cobalt, let's put a splash in there, and let's put some over there. And my cobalt is running out, so I'm about done with it anyways. Go. And let's move it back and forth. I'm even going to take some of my Windsor, I think, right there. And let's put some, before that carries too far, let's put some of that red so it pushes out the orange and doesn't create a great color too much. Down there, across and off. Oh, that's lovely. That's nice. Now some more of the rose. Make sure my dropper is clean. There we go. Then I will wipe it down. And I want to do one more thing to this, which is right here. That's too much yellow. Let's bury it. And spraying it a bit. I don't want to lose all that yellow. I just want to break it up. Turn it around, you see, and pouring it off. Let's pour a
a little bit more of that right in here. It's not quite dark enough for me because I know I'm going dark in that corner. I want it a little bit darker. I'm going to wipe down this edge, and now I'm going to leave this flat to dry.
My second pour has dried, and looking at my black and white photo, I can see the next layer that I'm going to mask out. So I've masked out the whites, and then the next value is masked, and now I will mask this third value. I'm taking my masking fluid, I'm going to go ahead and mask that out, and I can see it over here. This is the second value. This is 1, which is the white of the paper, 2, now 3. And I sometimes have to compare and make sure I'm getting the right value. My next layer masking fluid is dried, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up my paints again. So let's set this aside. Here I have my paints, and some of them are still wet from last time and some have dried. So I'm going to add more paint to it and just a little bit more water. I want to make these colors more saturated than my second pour. Okay, my color is mixed up. I have my under the bed box and my clean water, my brush, paper towels, and I even have my medicine dropper. When you mix up your color, make sure you don't go too dark. You want just a mid value when it dries. Okay, so starting with my clean water and my Hockey brush, I'm going to wet all the paper, and you don't want any wet masking fluid. You want it completely dry because that masking fluid will ruin your brush if it is not dried completely. I have it upside down right now, and that's okay. I'm going to start up here again with my cobalt. Let's start over here actually. Starting right there with my cobalt. Let's add some yellow. And I am going to add a touch of my Winsor blue. I had it roll down there too much, so let's wipe it off because I want to keep it up here. So I'm wiping it off there. Splash more of my Winsor blue. Wiping down that edge. Now I'm going to take some of my Winsor blue again, put it here in the center. Add some red to that. Let's add some more over here. I know I said I don't usually pour 3 colors at once, but I'm going to right now because I want it all to roll off that edge, and I know it will go darker in those areas, so I'm not too worried if they do accidentally mix.
And I put that blue in between so they wouldn't accidentally mix. Let's put some more blue right here. Let's run it off. See how I'm coming back in ever so slightly. I want darker along my edges there. And then I'll wipe it off. And the next thing I'm going to do is right along here, taking my rose. Add rose in here. I'm going to add some yellow. Let's pour that off. I want to make sure it gets into those trapped areas. Taking my dropper, I'm actually going to add more yellow in there and push that out. I'm going to come down here, I think. Taking my rose, put some rose in there. I can be more exact with my dropper. Than with the pour. Then pouring it on, but I am still pouring my paint around. See, I'm turning around so you can see this better, how I'm going to pour this off. Let's pour it back in. Using my finger again, making sure it gets in those trapped areas. I don't want to mix it too much with my finger. I'm just trying to get it into the trapped areas. I'm going to add more cobalt here, right there. Touch of the Windsor right here. I see it's moving slowly there, so what do? I take my light mister and I spray the air above it. I'm going to spray over here to keep that moist as well. And then letting it run off over there. Grabbing my paper towel. Let's wipe that down. I'm going to take some yellow, and below this petal I'm going to add the yellow. I'm going to come back in with rose there, but not at the moment. And so I'm tilting it that way so it doesn't mix too much with that purple that's happening. Now let's push out the purple by making it a blue purple. Adding more of my Windsor in there. It gets a little confusing sometimes with the eyedropper because I forget there's a color in there. You can use different eyedroppers or medicine droppers. I've tried that too, but I find that I'm trying to move so quickly before it dries sometimes that I mix things up. I take some cobalt just because it's softer. I want to put it in there. Let's add some rose over here. And try to keep the green and the red away from each other. It's okay if it gets a little bit gray. Wiping that down. Okay, I'm looking at this now, wondering what else it needs. And it needs to be brighter through here. But before I do that, because this will be drier and the paint will settle in more, I'm going to continue down here. So taking my yellow, put some yellow in, there. Let's put some blue in. I'm using my phthalo blue. And I might have to use my mister again to get it moving. Tilt it back in, grabbing my paper towel so that it doesn't run too much. I just want a little bit tilted back in. That's what I wanted. Okay, that's good. And now I'm going to tilt it that way and let, oh, that's wonderful. Look at that. That's kind of fun. I don't want that going too much into my green, but it looks awesome like that. You can see there's a little bit of a gray happening. That's fine. That's in the background. Gray is not a bad thing. I just like a lot of color and punch to my paintings. Because I feel like part of this pouring is adding vibrancy to your painting. Now I'm going to come in here and making sure my dropper is clean because I want to do red and yellow through here. Taking my yellow, let's put the yellow in. I'm tilting it that way because I accidentally put it too much into the red. That's just fine. I'm just tilting it ever so slightly. I'm actually going to pour it. I'm running out of yellow, which I said is not a good thing, but I'm almost done. Now I am taking my rose, splooshing it in some of these areas. Just put it right in there, push that out. And then I'm going to tilt it so it comes off over there. Let's take your finger, I'm going to actually just pour some of that rose in. And pour it off. Let's wet that right through there. It's starting to dry. Making sure that I'm getting in color into the areas. There we go. Lighten it off. Okay. Now I want to do some more blue down there, and I want some purple, I think, right here, which is awesome because I am going to take my rose. Let's put that rose in. Here. And let's take some cobalt. And just a touch of the phthalo right in there. Phthalo right there. Off. Let's turn it around so you can see this. I'm letting it come in. The third pour has dried, and I'm going to move on and do more masking fluid. So looking at my black and white, I can see that my next value, this value right here is my next value. And I start to compare, and I can see that's it. So I find the larger area that is that value, and then I can go from there. And I start to compare, and if I need to make adjustments, I can. I'm going to put that in, and I even go over the mask from last time. So I've left all the masking fluid on, and I am building up with more masking fluid. I'm going to continue on with this, and then we will pour again. On my fourth pour, I will not be using cobalt. I'll be using my yellow, my rose, and my phthalo or Winsor blue. And I am going darker. Okay, I have my painting. The masking fluid is dried. I have my colors, my water, underbed box, hockey brush, and my spray bottle. Oh, and let's not forget the medicine dropper in case I need it. I'm going to wet all my paper again with my hockey brush. Now I'm going to take this and pour it off so that all the extra water on my masking fluid does not come into my paint and make it lighter than what I want it to be. I'm going to start up here. This time I am taking my phthalo blue. Remember, there's no cobalt. Let's put some rose in there. Tilting it back and forth. I don't mind if I get some more rose into this area. It will make it a darker green or a nice purple. And I'm going to take my paper towel, if I can find it, wiping off the edge there, and then I'm trying to bring it back into this part here. I have to use my finger because there's so much masking fluid going on to make sure it gets in between some of those areas that are trapped by masking fluid. I'm basically trying to guide the paint instead of mixing it. I do want to go in this corner again. I'm going to use my medicine dropper, I think, and put some yellow up there. My yellow is very, very thick, so I need to add some more water to that. I want to add a touch of blue as well. I'm going to add the blue down here though. Let's add some over there. There we go. Tilt it back this way. Trying to get that yellow to be broken up some. While that's pouring over there, it's pouring slower because it is heavier in pigment. I'm going to keep it moist down there. And I'm okay with some areas being trapped. I actually want that. Taking my blue again, it's already in my dropper. And now I'm going to take some yellow and putting the yellow right here. And then I'm tilting back and forth, trying to get it to move where I want it to go. I'm liking this down here. I'm going to add some rose right there because I really like the dark blue, but I also want to break up that turquoise. A touch of it, just a drop of it. Now I'm going to add some of that blue. Hopefully get it to move some more. There we go. I spilled some of my blue, so I'm just slurping it up off my table. And I want to add some of my rose right in here. And I'm going to add some blue in there also. So slurping it off my table. Let's do that. Okay, didn't quite work. There we go. And now I'm going to move it around so you can see it better, I hope. And tilt it that way. taking my mister, let's mist this area while we're waiting for this to pour over here. I want to keep that moist, remember. I'm really liking that turquoise that's happening. Using my finger, letting some things get into those trapped areas. Let's tilt it back that way. Over there. Okay. Now I'm going to wipe it down. Taking some more of my blue. I'm going to add my blue over here. Let's add some rose over in here. Moving that off. Said I'm using my finger to help guide some of this paint. Oh, this is the point where I go, okay, I hope this works. I put so much time into this and so much color. I just hope it really, really works. Spraying that, because it's probably dried. I want to punch that turquoise in there. So let's see if I can do that. By taking my blue, let's push out that color. And then taking my yellow. Sure there's no blue in my dropper, and there was, but it's not too much. There we go. Let's see if we can get that to move around a little bit, not too much. See how that just happened. Let's move it down and out. Then I may go back in there. I'm liking that green though. That's a nice green. It's a really nice green. I'm actually going to take my water and let's see if we can push it out a little bit with water. Let's take a little bit of blue, putting the blue up here. And now the yellow right in there. It might not turn out as turquoisey because there is a lot of red underneath it. But I'm going to try to get it more green at least. Let it sit for a minute and I'll tilt it back in and then out. Let's see if that works better. paper towels. But notice I didn't let it run completely off. I'm going to lay that down. Let's take some blue right here. Ooh, I really like what's happening there. Take my dropper. Put some blue in there. That's nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Now I'm going to wipe this down. Let's see what it looks like from this angle. That's nice. That's really nice. Ooh. I'm going to try to see these streaks? They may not show up at the end, but I'm going to try to get that streak happening right there, another streak. And then I'm going to leave it flat to dry. And some of this will dry a little bit darker in areas that it's trapped, that the paint is trapped. And other areas are lighter, like down here I actually quite like it a little bit lighter down there because I am going darker and I want some of those leaves to show a little bit. That fourth pour has dried and I'm going to mask out one more layer, which is the second to the last value. Now there's not much in here, but I am going to do that and get some more depth going on, and then my next pour will be the darkest value. I'm going to go ahead and mix up just two colors for my darkest darks, which is my rose and my Windsor blue. So let's set this aside while I do that. When I do the mixing of my two colors for the last pour, I want them to be very saturated and I want them to be thick like heavy cream. But I want to make sure that I have enough color in my pots so that it will move across my paper. Last pour. This is exciting. Let's wet the whole paper again. Wet it all. Get it nice and wet. Cover it all with water. I'm going to pour off all the excess because a lot of that water is on top of the masking fluid. And I want a really dark background to this. Make the blossoms pop some more. Now I'm going to wipe off all the excess water around the edges. Then I'm going to take my blue. And now my rose. And I'm just covering half of it for now because it's easier to control and so I don't get myself all covered in paint as well. And also it's easier for you to see instead of the whole thing. I'm going to use my finger to help get into some of those smaller areas. And then I will tilt it down towards the bottom half that doesn't have any paint in it yet. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour some more blue. want some more rows up here. I like to pour my paint still at this point instead of just using a brush to put it on, because I like that it flows more naturally, and that some areas are going to be warmer or more red than other areas. The other areas will be more blue. So I don't want to mix it completely into one shade of purple. I want there to be variation among this purple. Okay, I'm done. I am going to leave this flat to dry, and then once it's dry, we will do the big reveal. This is dry, and I am ready to do the big reveal. It's kind of exciting, a little nerve-wracking, but here we go. Before I start to peel off the masking fluid though, I want to make sure there are no wet spots on my masked area. It takes longer for the paint to dry on the masking fluid for obvious reasons. And I want to make sure I don't have any wet spots that will drip into my nice white areas when I lift the masking fluid. Then I like to start at the top, and I lift up and away and gently pull away the masking fluid. Gently pulling it away. And I also will use a rubber cement pickup on the smaller bits that won't seem to lift as I pull away. You can start to see the magic happening. There it is. Next thing I'm going to do is gently tear away my masking tape. That helps to have a nice clean border. Helps you to see things better. And there you go.